Hi, my name is Steve Williams and I'm working with Solid Rock Realty in Ontario, Canada. If you like the content that I am producing today, could you please push the like button and the subscribe button if you'd like to see more. It really encourages me and just pushes me towards making new content. So today, what we're going to be talking about is how to use the equity that you either have in a home or have in your possession via cash or your job. And how to make that work to get into real estate investing, whether it's your first time buying a cottage, buying a rental property, whatever you want to get into. I'm going to talk about how you can do that with the equity. So let's get started. Today I'm going to use an example of $1 million. Just given the way that the market is today, I want to use something that is a round figure. Which is easy to calculate percentages and that sort of thing, but this will really work for any amount based on the percentages that I'm talking about. So typically what happens if you're a first-time home buyer and you're wanting to put 5, 10, 15% down, there's something called CMHC insurance that you are required to have, and until you own 20% of the value of the appraised value of your property, you're actually not able to use the equity the way that I'm describing. So this is for people that own 20% of the newly appraised value of your property according to the bank or lender or whoever you're using. So keep that in mind if you're looking as a first-time home buyer to get into something with under 20% down payment. There's other videos that you're going to want to watch just about first-time home buyers, so take a look at those. This one is specifically for 20% or higher of ownership or a down payment. So typically what ends up happening is the loan value is 80% of the principal price, so the appraised value of the house. And banks will most of the time send out an appraiser to appraise the value of your house, and they will typically lend up to 80%. So in this particular case, it'd be lend value is 80%, or sorry, 800,000. So 80% of the $1 million. So this is what we're going to work with. Is we're going to work with the 80% loan value, imagining that we're starting at 20% owned. Okay, so that means in this particular house of $1 million, you yourselves own 200,000 of it, and the bank owns 800,000. So owning $200,000 is a great starting point, and there's products in the industry called home line or home equity line or home equity, that sort of thing, and banks offer them. If you're talking to a mortgage broker, you can ask the mortgage broker about how a home line, home equity line works. So I'm just going to name it here home equity line, so you can remember. And what a home equity line does is it allows you to use the set up different segments in your mortgage. And what I'll talk about that. So oftentimes they allow up to 5 segments. So the way that it will work is segment 1, okay, keeping in mind this is under the $800,000 lend value. So at this point, your segment 1 would be actually $800,000 because this would be your mortgage, and this would be locked in for a variable or fixed term. So this is just like any other mortgage where you have a segment locked into a principal mortgage and you have mortgage payments monthly, whatever they are, okay? Now you can do, I'm only going to deal with 2 segments because, you could set up to 5 segments, but segment 2 here is actually a adjusting line of credit. Now, many of you probably know what a line of credit is. You can get line of credits that are either, just for, business or whatever it is, and many of them are not backed by anything. This one is actually backed by the house. So what ends up happening is this segment, let's say there's only 2 segments. I only want to work with segment 1 and 2, is that it takes the lend value, so the 800,000, and whatever the difference is between the lend value and the mortgage segment 1 value, it gives you this amount to work with. So in this particular case, because segment 1 is the full amount of the lend value of 800,000, it shows 800,000 and 0 in segment 2. But let's say over time, or you put money into a balloon payment, or you have a larger down payment than 20%. Let's say that you own 300,000. Yeah, so you own 300,000 in this property. So this property is worth $1 million. You only owe $700,000 in mortgage. So when you only own $700,000 in mortgage, that means that you have $100,000 in a line of credit to use towards something else. Now, it's important when you're talking to the bank or mortgage broker or whoever that you understand how this second segment in this home equity line works. It may not be the same as the segment 1, which is locked in at a certain rate, and you have monthly payments. This could be at a higher interest rate. It will tack on an additional amount to the original payment. So just be wary and be careful that you understand how this works. But I'm just going to show you how this would work when you're looking at buying a second one. Really, this gives you an available amount of 100,000. So this is an available amount towards the next property. So let's say that you're looking at the price of investment 1. Okay, so we're going to look at the price of investment 1, and let's just say, for example, it's a $500,000 house, okay, or cottage or multiplex, whatever it is. Now, the required down payment on this is 20%. This is the minimum. If you already have a principal residence, the minimum down payment typically for any financing, any lending institution is at least 20%. So I'm just going to put the principal price times 20%. So your required down payment on this property is $100,000. Well, that's interesting on this particular property because we actually have an available amount of $100,000 right here. So you actually don't have to use any cash in this particular situation to get your down payment. There's going to be closing costs, you know, like land transfer and lawyer fees and stuff like that. So please be prepared that you are going to need to, you know, pay that sort of thing and adjustments and that type of thing. This is just a really overview of how to use the equity in your property to acquire more real estate and invest in more real estate. So, I mean, this is a really exciting thing. So you would actually then, thinking of the loan to value, so the loan value of this, if you got it at 80% of the principal price, so we would go times 80%, you would be able to get 400,000, which is the 100,000 plus 400,000 is 500,000, so you paid for it. And then this is the same thing. You can get another home equity line on this one. So you'd have segment 1 on this. We're going to put 400,000 right at the beginning. So this is the same as up here. The mortgage locked in. The mortgage locked in for variable or fixed. And then segment 2, we're going to stick this one in here. And the segment 2 is actually this this original loan value amount minus the segment 1. So what you owe left on the mortgage. So let's just review here for a second. So on the first one, you purchased the initial house, or if you didn't purchase, but you are refinancing the property that you currently own, we refinance this at $1 million. So the $1 million has a loan value of 80%, which gives a lend value of 800,000. Okay. So then we talked about actually paying off an additional 100,000. Whatever period of time this can be. This can be over a number of years. As you progressively pay down your mortgage, segment 1 gets lower and segment 2 available credit to you becomes higher. So like again, if I move this down to 650,000, this becomes 150,000. So as you progressively move this, and this will become more important if you want to get into more properties. So this is principal property number 1. We're going to actually leave this just at 700,000 for now, and we'll deal with adjusting it later so we could show you how you can use the the value of each of the home equity lines in getting more property. The first investment property or cottage is always the hardest, okay? So just be clear about, let's be clear about that. It's always the hardest to get into that first one, but once you get into that first one, the second, the third, the fourth, they become easier. Okay, so that's just a review of the first one. The second one, the principal price is $500,000. For that, you need 20% down, which is this is 20% down payment. So you have $100,000, which we've used from here. So that covers that off. You've used no cash to do the down payment. You have a loan value on this one of $400,000 remaining, which is the $500,000 minus the $100,000, $400,000, and your mortgage segment on this one is $400,000. So you're in an investment property. Great, great news. Something to know when you're looking for an investment property is that the bank doesn't take into account the full amount of what you can receive. So what I mean by that is, let's say that this is a multiplex. Let's say that this is a threeplex, a triplex, okay? So this is a triplex with 3 doors, meaning 3 individual living units. So if that's the case, and let's just say, for example, a silly example, but let's just say that we have $1,000 times 3 for each of these units per month, okay? They all pay their own hydro. Let's just not worry about the expenses and stuff like that. Right now, we're just going to worry about the revenue only. So they earn $1,000 times 3 times 12 months. Okay, so this is the amount of annual income, annual gross revenue. So that's important to know. So when you go to the bank and you're trying to get a mortgage for this, they will actually not look at this full amount. Typically, they only look at 50% of the gross. So you would have to go this times 50%, and this is what the bank will use to calculate mortgage. So let's say, for example, you make $75,000 a year. This would be added on top of the $75,000. So you'd add $18,000 plus $75,000 to get your overall income, not $75,000 plus $36,000. The bank typically will not use 100%. They will always use 50%, just in case there's vacancies, okay? So it's important to know that when you're going, you may think that you can get more and wonder why you can't. This is typically the reason why. But it is also good to know that the bank will use some of the amount of money that you can bring in per year to actually get to the next property, for the next property. So now we're into property 3. Property number 3, price. So let's say that we got this second property. We were able to get the second property, but now you're looking at getting a third, whether you want to do an Airbnb, you want to do a multiplex, you want to do a condo, a single unit, whatever it is, okay? Let's just say, for example, the value of this one is $650,000. So again, what's the required down payment as a review for yourself is 20% required down payment. So we are going to go this one times 20%. So you need $130,000. Now, we've actually paid, like this is actually, let's say, a year or two later, and you're looking at getting into another property. Well, let's go back up here. A year or two later, you've probably paid down some of the principal residence. I don't know how much it would be. Let's just say, for example, you've paid down $50,000 over time. You got some lump sum payments on this one. And then on this other one, you have paid down, oh, sorry, we're going down here. You have paid down also $50,000 on this one. So we already used the $100,000 from this one, if you recall. We used $100,000 for the down payment here. So what do we have? We have available from principal number 1. We have $50,000. $50,000 available from this home line because you've already utilized 100. Now there's an additional 50 available. And then from available, oops, from number 2 house, whatever it is, cottage, house, cottage, you now have an available 50,000 here. 50,000. So you need 130,000 to get into a 650,000. But you could see this is actually a $650,000 third building, and you only need cash needed 30,000 to get into this. Now you could see with kind of the way that this is going with number 1, number 2, number 3. As you progressively pay each of them down, and hopefully this is your tenants, your investors, like whoever's living in the place, hopefully they're paying down your mortgage, they're paying down your principal. So as the principal decreases, the available line of credit goes up, which means that you have more available equity to you and you're able to buy more. And as you get more buildings, as I said, it becomes easier because each of these buildings does this. As the principal goes down on the mortgage, the line of credit goes up. And if that's happening on 3 buildings, the 4th building would be easier, because then you would add, we have available from number 1, number 2, the 4th building would have available from number 3, the 5th building would have available from number 4. So then you would need likely less and less cash because you'd be able to continue leveraging each of the buildings. Now, I mean, this is a very interesting way to use debt equity to get into investing. There's obviously other ways, but this is specifically, this talk today has been about how to leverage the equity in your home to get more properties, to get invested into real estate. If you are interested in talking about how to do this, who to talk to, I have different lenders that I could refer you to. I can sit down and talk with you about how this works and strategies on how to do this, or getting into it in different ways. If you're not interested in fully using the equity in your home, or it scares you, if you even want to just talk about refinancing, selling, whatever it is, there's many different ways. You can do vendor buyback mortgages, tons of different ways to get into things. This is just one specific way, and I hope it helped. I hope you're intrigued, and please subscribe. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. Thank you.